On Sunday, anti-ICE agitators invaded the sacred space of a church in the middle of service. They marched down the aisles and split the sanctuary in half, surrounding and isolating groups of the congregation from the pastor and terrifying children. At one point, they shouted, "Who shut this down? We shut this down." The Justice Department has arrested some of the ringleaders of the church invasion, and Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon has suggested these invaders violated the evangelical Christians' civil rights. The agitators tried to justify this action by noting that one of the church's pastors also works for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, but former CNN host Don Lemon, who claimed he was only there as a journalist observer, later revealed an animus against the evangelicals' type of Christianity. Lemon appeared on the I've Had It podcast with host Jennifer Welch, when Welch said that sect of evangelical Christianity has its rooting in the KKK. Lemon did not push back. In fact, he went on to attack the evangelical Christians.
I think that style of church, that's the white nationalist style of church. That sect of evangelical Christianity has its rooting in the KKK, because the KKK was a religious movement for white nationalists. And I think this DOJ, via Pam Bondi, who wears her crucifix, who will not ever address anybody's suffering, they have a problem with those types of white people being confronted and called out on their hypocrisy. And you are a prize for them, an independent, gay, Black, happy, successful man. And this is an attempt to intimidate and beat you down.
I don't disagree with that. And I didn't hear the first part, but I think that there is obviously there's racism in it. The whole point of it is that they're detaining people on the streets because of accents in the color of their skin, and they're also targeting people of color and Black people as well as brown people. So there is a certain degree of racism there, and there's a certain degree of entitlement. I think people who are in the religious groups like that, it's not the type of Christianity that I practice, but I think that they're entitled, and that entitlement comes from a supremacy, a white supremacy.
Let me get this straight. Evangelical Christians who want to worship God in their own church unmolested are supposedly entitled when they complain about agitators barging in and terrifying kids? The church is supposedly rooted in white supremacy and downstream of the KKK because a pastor also works in law enforcement? In what world does any of that make sense? The church website has a great deal to say about Jesus Christ, the gospel, and the human condition, but does not once mention race. As an evangelical Christian myself, I will say that the Bible makes it clear the gospel is open to all, regardless of skin color. In fact, Jesus went out of his way to cross racial boundaries, and God directed St. Paul to welcome all kinds of people into the church. So where does this notion come from? Jennifer Welch isn't the first to suggest a connection between evangelical Christianity and the Ku Klux Klan. The Southern Poverty Law Center has long put mainstream conservative and Christian groups on a hate map with Klan chapters for the sin of disagreeing with the left's agenda. According to the notion of critical race theory, America is institutionally or systemically racist, and therefore activists should seek for hidden ways that white supremacy informs our lives. These activists call themselves anti-racist, suggesting that anyone who opposes their radical agenda is ipso facto racist. This kind of thinking leads activists to claim that institutions dedicated to serving everyone, regardless of race, must really be racist because they don't support the anti-racist revolution. Part of this revolution involves the effective abolition of immigration law. ICE agents haven't gone to Minneapolis for their health. They're trying to deport some of the millions of illegal aliens who entered this country under Joe Biden, and they're prioritizing hardened criminals. Citizens can debate ICE's tactics in doing so, but this does not give them carte blanche to physically prevent ICE from carrying out arrests or to harass ICE officers, especially when they're off the clock, and even more so when they're worshiping God. Enforcing immigration law is a far cry from white supremacy, and churches that employ ICE agents are nothing like the KKK. But the left is so committed to its radical agenda that it's willing to demonize and disrupt churches in the middle of service. If activists on the ground think it's okay to disrupt church services and that anyone who complains is expressing white supremacist entitlement, what will they not do to advance their agenda? Is nothing sacred to them? I think we know the answer already.